if you are a voting member of Cook County. We are honored to have Mr. Roger Keats here with us. Good morning,
Roger.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you, and he is running for Cook County Board President. And today we're going to take today's interview from a different spin. Normally, when you look at political interviews, what you're looking at is this issue and that issue and this issue and what do you think and the debate is and all of that. I'm not interested in that angle today because we don't elect machines. We don't elect ideas. We don't elect concepts. We elect people. And my goal today is to show you Roger Keats as the man. I need to tell you a little bit about our show. Welcome to Module 1. This is our premiere season. And the word on the street is you can't afford as a small business or as an upcoming political candidate not to be on this show. This show is uniquely qualified to give the small business owners a forum where they can market and promote their business. We help you to overcome the challenges of the lack of resources and availability of far-reaching media services. Time is money, and I don't want to waste any more time. So, here we are, Mr. Keats.
Yes.
Once again, I'll say to you, glad to be here. Now, I want you to tell us about yourself as a man. Who are you, Roger Keats?
Family man, church-going family man, retired Army colonel, spent 16 years in the Illinois legislature, back in the 70s and 80s, back when we actually balanced budgets and got things done for the people. Spent a lot of years in the business community, both in financial services and in construction. And that's a little bit just about where my life is going. I grew up on originally the south side of Chicago, and then we moved to Evanston, and have basically lived in the area all my life.
Okay, I see here that you are active duty military. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I served active duty. I was an armor officer, although I ended up spending more of my military career in military intelligence. But as a young lieutenant at Fort Knox, our commandant was a general named George S. Patton III, the son of the legendary World War II Patton.
Wow.
And then I stayed in the reserves after a couple of years of active duty during the Vietnam era, and I missed Vietnam by accident.
Inside understanding of that.
People miss that. As the world gets smaller and smaller, and we know the world's getting smaller and smaller.
Absolutely.
It isn't just trade, it isn't just terrorism, it isn't just drugs, it's the proverbial all of the above. And frankly, our line of defense is the military. Mm-hmm. As we are well aware, obviously we have several 100,000 of our soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan. We have the American military all over the world. Now, I'm not so sure I'd have them in quite as many places as they are, but the point is, they are there to protect America's interests around the world. And the unfortunate problem is, in a difficult world like this, you've got to have somebody out in front to protect you.
Yes, and I agree with that. And I think when it comes down to legislating about so many people's lives, because not only are you talking about the military man, but you're talking about his family.
Right, and that has been a huge problem in Washington. People forget that when you constantly deploy, whether they're active component soldiers or reserve or National Guard soldiers who are sent overseas constantly, large numbers are married. It includes the females. Large numbers are married. Roughly 20% of the American military is female right now. And so when you have people like every second or third year being deployed for a year, it's hard to maintain a career. It's very difficult in marriages. It's very difficult in family structure. Our country needs that protection. But there are a lot of people who think we probably could use a few more people in the military so the strain would not be quite what it is today. Because when you look at the amount of active service that we're going through right now, we are stressed to the maximum.
Absolutely. And I think you brought in an interesting point, and I appreciate you bringing out that, because the whole politics, because that's what it is. It's a study of life and how we're going to, politics is a study of life and how we're going to finance it. All right?
Right.
So the whole concept that it's not just the military man, it's his family. And when he's gone, it creates a whole new plethora of problems. And I think that as a politician, it means a lot to me as a voter that you had that military background.
Well, 28 years. But the thing that is so frightening is when you see how many people come back from military service. The young police officer the other day, second tour in Iraq, he's out there with his motorcycle in front of his folks' car and he gets murdered.
Well,
you know, in fact, if you take a look at crime statistics, murder statistics, etc., it's safer in Baghdad than it is in Illinois. It's safer in Baghdad than it is in the United States. As much as I worry about the safety of our military, and it's a legitimate concern.
absolutely.
A lot more people are killed in America.
Yeah.
And we have got to deal with the crime, and the biggest part of that crime happens to be drugs.
Yes.
And that's what people forget. The largest source of crime is drugs. It isn't poverty. We've had poor people for a long time, and they didn't become criminals. It's the drugs and it's the pressures that go with that kind of thing, that people need to have money that they have no ability to earn,
I see.
that has led to crime. And our government's ability, for long periods of time, inability to deal with the drug problems is a huge crime issue. I spent 11 years in the Board of the Garfield Counseling Center on the west side of Chicago. You know, as I kiddingly say, you know you're not doing that for political reasons. No North Shore senator has a political value on a board on the west side of Chicago.
Right.
But what was so shocking is how many of our people would be coming to the clinic, our clients. Not bad guys, but by and large very poorly educated. By and large came from very poor family structures. And huge numbers, of course, were ex-cons. Where do you go when you have known drug problems, you don't have a good education, and you've been to jail? Where do you go?
You hit the streets.
Exactly. So we are attempting, we were there with the board, attempting to put together training and job opportunities for these individuals, which now reapplying to where we're at, that's something I'd love to do as a president of the county board, because when you deal with what are our real problems,
Right.
when you cut through everything else, the real problem is lack of private sector taxpayers.
Okay.
And an awful lot of them happen to be nice young kids who live in the south and west side of Chicago who do not have a great education and have not had always strong role models. And so they're caught in a position where they never quite get into the workforce.
That's right.
And it's frightening. It doesn't have to be this bad. We have a whole series of ideas, which I will, if you care to ask, I'll be glad to tell you.
Oh, we're going to get to that.
You know, what can we do to solve this problem?
Yeah.
Because everyone acts like, oh, well, there's nothing you can do. That's not true.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but please don't tell me there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, there's plenty that we're going to be able to do, but I think it shows such as this one, Microvision News Network, that gives the viewing public a chance to say, listen, let's just sit down and let's put aside all of the theatrics and let's talk about what's going to make a difference to you and me. Now, when I think of society, I know that society is a sum total of parts. So I want you to tell me, what do you do every day? I'm curious.
Well, right now, I just retired, so I'm actually campaigning pretty much all day.
Okay.
But again, I was in the securities industry for years, had a construction company for years, and spent 16 years in legislature, and a congressional staff with Jack Kemp before that, and of course the military. But during the day, I tend to try and email people, talk to people on the phone, come out and meet with people. I am always available to meet with groups, always.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. Now, I want to talk to you about philosophies. I would like for you to share with us your personal philosophy as a man, and then we want to hear your philosophy as a political candidate.
It reminds me of something a friend of mine, Judge R. Eugene Pynchon, the late Judge R. Eugene Pynchon, said. You cannot ask people to be things they've never seen. Now, in his case, he was doing it with probation challenge, and he ran out of his chambers when he was a judge. And these were, by and large, young boys who were in trouble in the criminal system. And he said, how can you say to someone, you should have done such and such when he's never seen someone do such and such?
Right.
So I think it's important in life that you accept the fact you are a little bit of a role model. You have a responsibility. I don't apologize for being a church-going person. I don't apologize if I try to spend time with my family. Those are things I consider important. But that kind of role, we need, and this is where I think government comes in, because we need to set the parameters so that people can get jobs. I, to this day, have always argued that 95% of America's social problems would be cured if everyone who wanted a job could get a job. Now, there are some problems, let's be realistic there, but 95%, if everyone had a job just so they could take their family to dinner once in a while, they could pay the bill, take a vacation once in a while, and relieve the stress and the financial stress. Anyone who's ever been under financial stress knows that's just as painful as getting hit with a stick, too.
Absolutely.
And so it is so important that government quit being a block to people working. We need to make it easier for people to work. And again, when you look at the governments, whether it's the city of Chicago, county of Cook, state of Illinois, or the federal government, who are all having huge revenue problems right now, I remind people these revenue problems are not a problem. They are a symptom. The symptom is not enough private sector taxpayers. Therefore, you have the huge demand for social services, which is what's breaking the bank.
I believe that society would be different if there were more mentors in place, and that you don't have a problem being one.
I have no problem with that. I think that society would be better off with it. And people, not just males, but people in general, have to accept that you sort of have a protective role towards kids and towards your fellow citizens. I mean, when I went on active duty in the middle of the Vietnam War, yes, they signed the peace treaty, and I ended up not going to Vietnam. But nobody told me when I was going on active duty I wasn't going to Vietnam. You know, you have to accept the fact that each of us are somewhat responsible for everyone else. We are all in this together. I am not saying that individuals don't have responsibilities for themselves, but we also have responsibilities. So yes, you need to act appropriately, but all of us have responsibility to help other people act responsibly. And I think that's a very important thing that people miss, is part of the problem in society today is it becomes so easy to ignore everyone else. You know, and whether it's your kids, your own family, your relatives, or your neighbor. The other day, they had that fire on the fire on the west side, and this fellow, frankly, was sleeping in a doorway across the way, sees the fire, and he runs in the building, wakes everyone up, and saves them. He's a homeless guy.
You see?
Good. Does he have some obligation? Yeah, he did. He accepted his obligation. He saved all those people's lives and risked his own while doing it. So,
in other words, the society is only as strong as its weakest link.
I don't know if I go that far, but while I agree with the basic concept, the only trouble, and this is a sad thing, as we all know, some people are born with certain disabilities, and society to help that group, and we just have to understand some of those will never have a chance to be born with physical, mental disabilities. They'll never really be able to carry their own weight. But that doesn't mean they have no value. It just means they fit into society differently.
Yeah, and it goes back to the biblical concept of the strong bearing the infirmities of the weak. Now, you know what? I can already tell that we're going to have a fun time together.